On today's show, how did a little win over the Hawks give the Mavs more confidence in their ability to make a run? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where we always let it ride after wins. Thanks for being part of the show. Making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, etc. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section, what's one thing that stood out to you in the Mavs win over the Hawks? Let it ride. Let it ride. And since we get to let it ride, I get to tell you about something cool that happened today. Lexi, shout out to listener Lexi, came and gave me these stickers that she made. How cool is that? It's a little raccoon in a little basketball hoop. And then it's got a little let it ride on the bottom. And then a listener also noticed that there's a 77 in one ear and an 11 in the other. Just genius work. Just genius work. So I got it here on my mic right here. You can see it. And I posted it on Instagram and Twitter at Nick Van Exit on either platform, and on TikTok as well. Go follow me on there. Shout out to every listener I saw tonight. I mentioned Lexi. Shout out to Sarah and Lucas I saw at the game tonight as well. Shout out to everybody that I saw at the game. Love meeting you guys at games. Today, let's get into the Mavs win against the Hawks. We'll talk about how they won this game. The offense was not pretty, but the dub was still a dub. Still a dub. But the offense is not pretty. We'll talk about, do the Mavs need a third scorer? Do they have to establish a third scorer? It's kind of a question that was asked today, and I went through, and I'm just curious about who can be a third scorer. PJ Washington had a kind of a breakout little game, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll give some updates on Derek Lively II and Josh Green's injuries. Jason Kidd gave some updates. I mean, you know, as much as Jason Kidd is going to give updates on injuries, because as we all know,
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
That's basically as confident as he was about the updates. But at least gives us an idea of, can these guys play any games before the playoffs? And so we'll talk about those guys. We'll break that all down. But let's start here, ladies and gentlemen. The Mavericks win this game 109-95. They hold another opponent under 100 points. This Mavericks team just continues to play a completely different brand of basketball than what we've seen in the past from this Mavericks team. And that fact alone, the fact that the Mavericks, Tim McMahon tweeted this out from ESPN Stats and Info, Mavs have held 5 of their last 12 opponents under 100 points. Dallas did that only 3 times in the first 64 games. The Mavericks are playing a different brand of basketball right now. They're playing defense first. They're playing to score opportunistically, and not because we will die if we do not score. The scoring because of desperation made every single bucket and every single attempt at the basket seem like life or death. Hence the phrase living or dying by the 3. They were living and dying by the 3. Guess what? If you've got a defense that can actually play, you don't have to live or die by the 3. Now, there will be times when we feel we're living and dying by every single shot because they need the shots because they can't get them from anywhere else. And that will be a problem, sure. But I'm taking this as a win, and I'm taking this as a little step forward for the Mavericks because they found a way to win a game in a different way. Usually, to start a Mavericks game, Luka starts the first quarter and is like, all right, let's see what I got here. Let's cook. Last time we played this team, I scored 73 points. I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to feel out the defense, see what they give us. And then Luka goes off for a crazy number in the first quarter or crazy number in the second quarter. And then at halftime, the other team adjusts. They do their thing. They go into halftime, they adjust. And then Kyrie goes, all right, my turn. And then Kyrie at the beginning of the third quarter or the fourth quarter goes off on some kind of run on his own and gets real aggressive. And then the Mavericks pull away, or the Mavericks, get some kind of separation there. This game, Luka starts the game 0 for 6 from the field. Didn't score in the first quarter. First time since November 5th against the Hornets. The Mavs won that game. But first time he hasn't scored a single point in the first quarter since November. Do you even remember what you were doing in November? Luka scored 1 million points since then. Got to give DeAndre Hunter credit on the Hawks side. When Luka scored 73 against the Hawks the last time they played, he was not there. And DeAndre Hunter has guarded Luka really well in his career. For as up and down as he's been in his career, gets a big contract, then is he worth it, blah, blah, blah. A lot of Mavs fans want him on the Mavs. Maybe not so much anymore, but I thought he did a really good job on Luka, and I thought that that their defense was much more solid than it has been in the past. Whether you want to point specifically to the players that they didn't have in this game, they didn't have Trae Young. They didn't have who didn't they have in this game? They didn't have Trae Young. They didn't have Sadiq Bey. Huge one. That's probably bigger than because that was the guy that was guarding Luka the last time. Neko Okongwu they were without, and then AJ Griffin as well. And so this Hawks team, had to play with guys that are better defenders, like DeAndre Hunter had to play 36 minutes, and Jalen Johnson played 36 minutes, and DeJounte Murray played 35 minutes in this game because they kind of had to because they were without some guys. And so they did a much better job on Luka, and they really tried to take away the rim from the Mavericks. Tried to take away the paint. I said, you're not coming in here, and you're not going to score 60 points in the paint on us. And the Mavericks said, well, that's the way we've been scoring a lot of points. We throw it up to Lively or Gafford. Lively was out in this game, but we throw it up to those guys, or Derrick Jones Jr., or even Kyrie's been catching lobs lately. Well, we throw it up to these guys because we're the ones that are going to go in and control the paint. Mavs only score 34 points in the paint in this game, and they only took 14 shots at the rim. That's not a lot. Not a lot. 14 shots at the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass, is in the 4th percentile of frequency at the rim. 4th percentile out of 100. That's not a lot. And so the Mavericks found a different way to win this game. They did it with defense. They did it with active hands. Atlanta had 22 turnovers, only the second time all season they've had at least 22. And deflections. Luka, 6 deflections in this game. 6. The leaders in the NBA average like 3.5 deflections a game. Luka had 6 deflections in this game. Maxey and PJ both had 2 for themselves. Gafford, Exum, and Derrick Jones Jr. each had a deflection as well. They forced a lot of turnovers. They forced the Hawks to not have any good offense, not get into any flow. They had Bogdanovich in this game scored 17 points in the second half. And he scored 13 of those in the second quarter. But 17 points in the second half. The rest of the Hawks scored 22 in the second half. Insane. The Mavs defense has turned into a defense that is elite. They are. It won't say that in the full season numbers. You got to look at what the Mavericks have been since the trades. And even more so since the, that 5 out of 6 loss streak that they had. The Mavs are turning into a really good defense. And PJ Washington spoke about it after the game, and he said, we talked the whole game. And you could tell they were connected. They were talking. Things that happened felt like the Hawks were making really good shots. Garrison Matthews, for Larry Bird's sake, he hit 4 threes in a quarter, or hit 3 threes in a quarter, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's hitting really tough shots. DeJounte Murray felt like he was hitting really tough shots. Bogdanovich was going in there. Felt like the Hawks had to work for everything offensively that they got. And it's because the Mavericks defense was really locked in, and it's another way the Mavs found a way to win. And so I think, to me, this gives me more confidence in the Mavericks, especially in a team that has lofty expectations. Bring Brendan Urie in, because they have high hopes for a living. This team wants to win a title. They all have talked about it. They've all mentioned it in post-game pressers. Jason Kidd mentioned it again tonight. We want to win a championship. If you want to do that, you've got to win games in different ways. And this was another way they found a way to win a game. Yes, it's against the Hawks. Yes, but they're just a playing team, and they're at the bottom, and they're not even above 500. But they're 7-3 in their last 10. Came in pretty hot. And the Mavericks made them look like an offense that didn't belong in the NBA. 92.2 points per 100 possessions for the Hawks. That's the 3rd percentile, again, out of 100. Brutal offense for the Hawks. And you got to give the Mavericks credit for it, and they found another way to win the game. And finding more ways to win games is what makes a team a championship. How many times did Isaac and I sit on this very podcast and rattle off this phrase, the Mavs found another way to win a game in 2022. How many times did we do that where, man, at the end of the season, man, the Mavs have found another way to win a game. Good for them. This Mavs team keeps finding ways to win games. We said that so many times. I think we did that podcast like 8 times at the end of the 2022 season when the Mavs made the Western Conference Finals. And I'm doing it again. I'll do it right now. Mavs found another way to win a game against this Hawks team. And so coming up, let's talk about how the Mavs won this game. How did they pull off the win? And is PJ Washington starting to break out? Let's talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA as well? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, got to get on that, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match required Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. A 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks everybody for hanging out with me on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. If you want to support the show, text me, get text alerts from me on Mavs updates and more. I'll do a watch back after this game where I'll go back and watch a quarter, probably the second, maybe the third quarter, and I'll break it down. I'll show some film stuff. If you want to get that, subscribe to the subtext, click the link in the description, and shout out to everybody that subscribed. I hit my goal that I wanted to hit, but let's keep going. Up and up. Continue to grow this show. The more you subscribe to that, the more extra content I'll do. All right, Isaac, let's get into how the Mavericks won this game. I mentioned it was a rough first quarter. it was a rough first quarter. Mavs only scored 25 points. Hawks scored 31 points. The Mavericks defense hadn't warmed up yet. And Jason Kidd said that he was asked about this game and asked about the Mavericks coming off of this road trip because the Mavs just went on a really weird road trip. I don't think I've given it enough credit in this show how weird this road trip was that they just did. So they go at San Antonio, March 19th. Then they're home for Utah. Then they go at Utah like 3 days later. Really weird. Then they go the day after they're at Utah. They go at Sacramento. Then they wait 2 days in Sacramento where they're not going back home. They wait 2 days there in Sacramento. They play again. Then they go back to Texas, but to Houston and play there. And then they go back to Northern California to San Francisco and Golden State and they play there. And then they come back to Dallas and they play that, and they play this game tonight against the Hawks. It felt like, Jason Kidd said, it felt like we were still on the road, basically, because they haven't really come back, because they've only been back for like 1 day. And so it was weird. There was weird energy to start. Didn't feel like, it was just a really weird feeling game. Luka started 0-5 from the field, didn't score in the first quarter. It was just a weird feeling Mavericks game where you just felt uneasy about everything that was happening. And you're like, okay, well, but Kyrie and PJ Washington were able to hit some threes, and Kyrie was able to be a little aggressive. And then you had, Maxi Kleber was able to be opportunistic, and he scored some. And so the Mavericks, they stayed connected, at least in that first quarter. And then the second quarter comes, and this is when the Mavericks really kind of put their stamp on the game and actually played actual Mavericks basketball, what you felt. Luka, 16 points. It's his 25th time scoring 16 points in a quarter this season. Can you guess who has the second most number of 16-point quarters in the NBA this season? And then I'll give you 5 guesses. Go ahead. Ready? Okay, no, most of you are wrong. Devin Booker, number 2 in most 16-point quarters. Again, Luka has 25. Luka has 25. How many names did I just try to blurt out there? Luka has 25. Booker has 13. Luka double the amount of 16-point quarters. And that's kind of an arbitrary number, but it's the number he scored today. So that's what I looked up. Tyrese Maxey has 12. Embiid has 11. That's the next highest in the NBA's number of 16-point quarters. Luka is by far the best individual quarter scorer in the NBA. So Luka goes on his little run where he hits 3 threes. He hits 5 field goals total. He gets 5 assists, 16, 5, and 5 and a quarter for Luka just in that second. I mean, how many NBA players would just die for a 16, 5, and 5 quarter? Or a 16, 5, and 5 game even. I mean, there's not many players averaging 5 and 5, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And so you get in the second quarter, Luka really gets going, and the Mavs catch back up. They get the game is tied 45-45, and Atlanta's trying to stay in the game, and then the Mavericks continue to just keep climbing. They go on a little run at the end, and Luka hits another just insanely weird shot where it's the exact same move that he did in the scoop shot the other day against the Rockets, where he's the defender's right in front of him, and so he's pivoting, and he leans forward. But instead of the scoop, he just does a shot, and he banks it off the rim, and he makes a 3 from that, and the Mavericks go up by 8 going into halftime. And so you're like, okay, Mavs up by 8 at halftime, feeling all right about it, and you're ready for the Kyrie Irving run in the third quarter, and you kind of got it. He came out aggressive. He only scored 5 points, but he came out aggressive, and the Mavericks were able to get a bunch of stops, and the Mavs pushed the pace in that quarter. And I thought this is where Daniel Gafford had such a big impact in this game, and I want to give him a lot of credit. Atlanta was 9 of 22 at the rim in this game. That's 40%. Teams average like 60 to 70% at the rim. They shot 40% at the rim. That's in the first percentile, according to Cleaning the Glass. First percentile, again, out of 100. So that's an awful game shooting at the rim. And give Daniel Gafford a ton of credit. Give him his flowers. With Derek Lively out, Daniel Gafford had to step in, and he didn't really play a ton more minutes. He played 22. Jason Kidd talked about that after the game. They don't really want to push his minutes too much because he's a real energy guy, and you need that burst and you need that force. Remember I talked about with Dana yesterday that one of the reasons why Gafford has been such a good move and he's been better than Lively in that spot, in that starting spot, is that he plays with force and he plays with aggression and energy and those rebounds that he grabs and the way that he dunks and the way that he blocks shots and the spring in his step, basically. And so you don't want to play him like 30, 35 minutes. Yes, they're athletes and professional athletes and all that, but you still want to save the legs in a way. And so Gafford only plays 22 minutes, but I thought his minutes were very impactful, and I thought he just made such a big impact on this game. Also making an impact on this game is PJ Washington. 5 of 8 from 3. In his last 6 games, 44% from 3. He's shooting 19 of 43 in his last 6 games. Feels like his shot is finally coming around. And I was worried about his shot, but I was not worried about his shot. Try to make that make sense. Okay, I will. I was not worried about the mechanics of his shot. You look at his shot and you go, man, that's a good looking shot. Even when he first came in, he was shooting like 19% the first couple of games. You're like, man, it just looks like a good shot. He could get it. It wouldn't go down, but we saw a lot of them like rattle in and out. And the Mavericks just stuck with him and said, hey, keep shooting. Luka, Kyrie, keep shooting. They all said that to him. He mentioned it after the game. They all came to me and said, keep shooting, all that. Great to see him really connect in a game like this. This is, his best shooting game. He's hit 5 before, but it was 5 of 10 before. This was 5 of 8. I mean, this is a hot night shooting. So shout out to PJ Washington having a huge impact, obviously on defense. His defense is game-changing for the Mavericks. The Mavericks are not as good of a defense. All the things I said at the beginning of the show about how good the Mavericks defense has been, PJ Washington is at the front of that. Like, Gafford gets credit for sure, but PJ Washington playing 36 minutes, defending the way that he does, he's been better than I expected him to be. A good defender coming in. I've heard a lot of people like go do I didn't think he was going to be that good of a defender when the Mavs traded for him kind of thing. I did. I thought he was going to be, because I saw the way that he played next to Mark Williams last season on the Hornets, and that was a good defender, and they played really good defense together. So I was like, all right, you pair him with a good center, he's going to play good defense, and I can trust him to play that. And so, but he's been better than I even thought, is my only point to that. And so the Mavericks go on a little third quarter run. They take their lead there, and then they basically hold on to it for the rest of the game. They stay with them. They don't blow the Hawks out of the water. The Mavs actually shot almost 50 threes in this game. They hadn't done that in a while. If they had made more of them, they only hit 36%. But if they had made more of them, maybe this is more of a blowout and all that. But even still, Luka plays 37 minutes, not a ton. Kyrie plays 35. But then you get to the fourth quarter, and I'm a little worried about how the fourth quarter went, because these guys were gassed. It felt like literally both teams gave up. Now, the Hawks played the night before. They played against Detroit the night before, so they were on a second night of a back-to-back. They were traveling. But the Mavericks, who had just went on that road trip but had the day off yesterday, the Mavs and both teams gave up at like the 2-minute mark, the 3-minute mark. The Mavs were playing prevent offense, and the Hawks were just like walking up the court like, all right, can I just go to bed? Please. Can I just go to bed? And both these teams were gassed. I don't care about the Hawks anymore. Like, they're gone. Brad Rowland of Locked On Hawks can care about them. But for the Mavericks, they play again tomorrow or tonight on Friday, whenever you're listening to this, against the Warriors. And the Warriors are going to come in. They're on a second night of a back-to-back too against the Rockets. But I'm nervous about how this team is going to play if they looked that tired at the end of this game. And so just something to watch, something to look at. Something else to watch is, how important is it for Lively and Josh Green to play games before the playoffs, and will they play? We'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis from guys like me and from other Locked On hosts. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire Stick. If you go to Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV, you can get your Fire Stick. There's some for like $40, or you can get the better models and the better versions for more than that. But they start at $40. That's pretty good. Go check it out as well. Whether it's the opening weekend for baseball and the Rangers, college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently also launched Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us at Locked On as well, the Locked On Sports Today channel, as well as the Locked On Sports Dallas channel that I'm on daily, multiple times daily. It's like 3 or 4 times a day. Go check it out. The TV channels dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV, Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Also brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that gets behind a wheel and is like, I want to push things a little further today? Is that the type of driver you're like? You ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to that next level. Check out the 2024 Nissan Rogue, perfect for city drives and great escapes. They have the class exclusive Google built in. It's your always updating assistant on call for almost anything. Gone are the days of fumbling around, connecting your phone. Maybe it doesn't connect, maybe it does. I have the problem with my car sometimes when, if my phone doesn't connect, how do I get it to connect? You know what I mean? It's like, it does it automatically. So then when it doesn't, do I have to go through the Bluetooth? Don't have to do that anymore, because the 2024 Nissan Rogue has the Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play Store built into it. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Also check out the 2024 Armada. It will change what you expect from a full-size SUV, tow bigger, and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Pathfinder, or the Armada. Find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Again, NissanUSA.com.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is, huh? Anybody?
All right, Isaac. Let's get into how the Mavericks have kind of like, do they have a third scorer problem? Maybe I should do a longer show about this, but in any NBA team, there's like a hierarchy, and the Mavericks have a very clear one in the top 2. Luka's the 1A, Kyrie's the 1B. What a slight to Kyrie. I can't believe he would say that. He's the Batman. Luka's the Robin. It's okay. It's fine. It's going to be fine. The 1A, 1B. It's fine. Those are the top dogs. Who's the third scorer on this Mavericks team? Do they need one? Do they have to have somebody to emerge as the third scorer? It would be really nice if the Mavericks did. It'd be very nice if Tim would become the third scorer like he was at the beginning of the season. Or it would be nice if Jaden Hardy had taken a leap and become that third scorer. Or if, Derek Jones Jr. was driving with the confidence he was at the beginning of the season, hitting shots the way he was at the beginning of the season. Or if Dante Exum was playing the same way he was playing in December. Or if PJ Washington was playing the way that he played in Charlotte a little bit, where he can put it on the deck and score and all that. The problem is, there's just not a lot of opportunities for teams, for guys to do that, especially when the Mavericks are playing opportunistic offense, where it's not just, all right, we've got to just do this. They're scoring out of fast break. They're scoring on broken plays. They're scoring on, stops and transition and all kinds of stuff like that. Love it. Great. They're scoring off of the doubles on Luka. They're scoring off of, the blitzes that Luka takes, the 400 plus blitzes off pick and rolls. So since the trades happened, these are the players with the most 10-point games outside of Luka and Kyrie since then. Daniel Gafford has 15. That's all opportunistic scorer. He's not like your prototypical third scorer. I wouldn't even call him a third scorer, even though he has the third most 10-point games since then. And he has 7 15-point games. PJ Washington is next. He has 13 10-point games since the trades. Tim Hardaway Jr. has 10 10-point games. Derek Lively has 6. Derek Jones Jr. has 5. Hardy 4. Josh Green 3. Dante Exum 3. Maxi Kleber 1. The Mavs don't really have that guy that's going to step up and be that, all right, I got to get a bucket, and you need to get a bucket from somebody else. The Mavs do need that player, and I think they need that, in their next phase of what this team is. So I'm talking off season. They're not going to get it this season, I don't think. I don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to wake up and be a good, off the dribble scorer. He's not a good off the dribble transition player necessarily. Although he has really turned up the playmaking recently, which has been a really nice thing to see. He had 3 assists tonight. He has some really good passes. He's got some really good playmaking chops. It's just wild to watch him in transition get completely wide open court. Wide open court. He drives, and DeAndre Hunter picks his pocket like he's a middle schooler going up against, a college basketball player. It's insane. But do the Mavericks have a third scorer? No, they don't really. PJ Washington stepped up in this game, 19 points, hit 5 threes. He can be that guy. He can get his shot. He can get that little floater. He can hit threes. He can do all that. But he's not put the ball in his hands and let him do something. He did run pick and rolls as the ball handler for Charlotte, and he's always on that list of players that ran as many ran as many pick and rolls as the ball handler and the roller. I did not explain that very well. He was always on those lists of guys that ran 100 pick and rolls as the ball handler and 100 pick and rolls as the roller. He was much better as the roller than he was as the ball handler, but he still did run them in Charlotte. They ran anything. The Mavericks don't have a third scorer. I think it's okay. They play opportunistic offense, and so you've got Luka and Kyrie. They can score whenever they want. And it would be nice to have that third guy. It'd be nice if Hardy would have taken a leap. It would be nice if Tim Hardaway Jr. was hitting threes at the clip that he was before. It'd be nice if PJ Washington could have 19 points every night. It's just not going to happen. And so the answer to my question is, do they have a third scorer? No. Do they need one? Maybe. We'll see. What if Kyrie has a bad game? What if Luka has a bad game in the playoffs? What if they have bad games? We don't know. Okay, updates on the injuries. Josh Green, Jason Kidd said it'll be about a week or so. And again, this comes with the Mavericks Surgeon General warning of...
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
It's coming from the medical staff. Jason Kidd gets it, and then he synthesizes it and tries to figure out exactly what they mean. For Josh Green, and, it's science. It's not math. It's not exact always. How many times am I going to start this? How many times am I going to start this part of the segment? Since you've made it this far, I'll tell you this honestly. The Raccoon Squad, I'll tell you guys. I recorded 9 minutes of this show in the arena. Some of you saw me setting up and saw me starting to record them. I recorded 9 minutes and I thought it was terrible. And I was like, it's just something about it which was not right. I couldn't let it ride. It was a lot of things. And I just packed it up and I went home. And I went home, and here I am. So the fact that I made it this far without completely shutting down, it's pretty good. We'll see how I am tomorrow. Slightly will be back tomorrow. Josh Green. Josh Green, a week or so, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, ? He's improving. That was the update from Jason Kidd. It seems like he's a little closer to be back than Derek Lively. Derek Lively's out with a right knee sprain, and that one is 2 weeks away, Jason Kidd said. So if you're looking at the weeks here, you've got April 15th is the Mavericks' last game, and we're at April 4th. 2 weeks from today would be the 18th. And so it to me doesn't look like he's going to be back. Doesn't look like Derek Lively is going to be back for a game at the end of the season. Now, the first round starts April 20th. Doesn't mean the Mavericks will start April 20th, but it does. Play-in starts April 16th. The Mavericks, I think, would play the 17th or 18th. If they're in the play-in, because they wouldn't be 9-10. So it looks like Derek Lively is not going to be back till the beginning of the playoffs, and so they'll play it slowly, and we'll see what happens. And maybe this is a good thing for the Mavericks, but maybe this is a good thing for Derek Lively that they don't just thrust him into this. But it's not good for the Mavericks overall, I don't think. And then Josh Green, he's improving, could be back in a week. A week would put him back for maybe the Miami game, the Detroit game, and the Oklahoma City Thunder game. So maybe he plays in some of those. It would be great to have Josh back. It would be great to have one more wing so that we don't have the Hardy Kyrie minutes at all, ever. Can we just not have that? And so that's the update on those guys and the injuries. We're still just kind of waiting. And you know what? It's kind of nice that the Mavericks are not like dying and desperate because Lively is out. Right? Because that was what it would have been like at the beginning of the season. Oh my gosh, Lively is out. And it was. We were there. Oh my gosh, Lively is out. How are they going to survive? They can survive without it. Love it. That's great. Hopefully those guys come back. But if they don't, the Mavericks will continue to roll on. If they get them back, that's awesome. It's kind of found money at the end. So there you go. Guys, we'll be back. Slightly, we'll be back tomorrow. It did not rain. It did not rain, so he got to play softball on Thursday. And we'll be back tomorrow. Mavs, Warriors, all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to and getting all the way through Locked on Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom. That 9 minutes you will never, ever see. It's gone forever.